Welcome back to the Augusta Civic Center. This is the Center Court Podcast. I'm Travis Barrett alongside Drew Bonifant and Travis Lazarcyzk. We are from centralmaine.com. I even forget where I'm from now at this point.
I don't know what day it is anymore.
I think it's Thursday. Does that sound...
Of what year?
What year? Yeah, great point. We even skipped the month. But anyway.
I heard somebody in the stands say it's Monday. We'll go with that.
Monday it might be. We just wrapped up the Class C South Boys quarterfinals at the Augusta Civic Center. We started off this afternoon in a really good game. Number 3, Boothbay holds off number 6, Mount Abram, 59-54. Number 4, North Yarmouth beat number 5, Richmond, 54-37. Number 2, Waynfleet, a 55-29 winner over Trape in a runaway. And then the nightcap, another one-sided game. Top seed and defending Class C state champion Winthrop, 53, number 9, and rival Monmouth, 24. Let's open up the floor. Gentlemen, what stood out to you today/tonight?
Winthrop's defense, really. I mean,
Yep.
They had a plan to shut down 2 or 3 Monmouth guys and succeeded in all 3 facets of that. And it was 9-9 late in the first quarter, and then Monmouth scored 15 points the rest of the way.
And then all of a sudden it wasn't 9-9.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it was a runaway, it was a rout, and Winthrop looking every bit the state champion that they are.
Yeah.
If you go back to that last time that they played a tournament game in the Civic Center, it was the regional final against Halldale last year, and it was the same sort of thing where they made it a point to take one player out of the game, and they did that. You know, you say some coaches, a player, a star player goes off and they throw up their hands at the end of the game and say, "Oh, what can you do when he comes and plays like that?" Well, Todd MacArthur always makes it a point with his Winthrop team to make sure that guy's going to have a tough time scoring points. So he's been very effective throughout the years of taking away your top option.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's funny how many coaches talk about, if a star player gets their points, so be it. Todd takes kind of that opposite approach, which is come get it. And more often than not in the last few years, they've not been able to go get it.
Because you saw in the other Class C games here tonight, the Stars typically carried their teams. Tiandre King had a big game for North Yarmouth Academy. Hunter Crocker had a big game for Boothbay. And Dominic Campbell had a big game for Waynfleet.
Yeah. I was going to say, so if we look at defense and we look at star players, I'm kind of already looking forward to what Tiandre King from North Yarmouth can do coming off a 34-point game tonight. What happens when number 1 Winthrop gets their hands on him?
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking too, because that feeds right into that point we let off with, which is, he is going to have a plan for King, whether that's going to be just Jevin Smith follows him everywhere he goes. And that's what it was. That's what it was last year with Ashton Abbott. They took Cam Wood, and they didn't care if he had to range out to the perimeter. He was going to go there if that's where Ashton Abbott went. And so this year it might be the same with Jevin Smith. They might use Ryan Baird. They might use a combination, but Tiandre King will find it a lot harder to go get those baskets and those putbacks down low than he did today.
It's interesting when we look at NYA, Waynfleet, Winthrop to a lesser extent. They kind of have size everywhere, but boy, the big men are the big players for these teams, whether it's King or Campbell for NYA and Waynfleet respectively, or kind of a 3-headed monster for Winthrop. But does that surprise you guys at all? Size still matters in basketball, apparently.
It certainly does at high school, even though you're even seeing the big men go out and pop the threes. I know it's in Campbell's arsenal at Waynfleet. He took only one tonight and missed it, but he's got that in his bag of tricks if he needs it. You saw Ryan Baird make a 3 for Winthrop tonight. Big guys don't just sit on the low block anymore, and it makes them even more dangerous.
Yeah, and MacArthur with Winthrop will say, even if Jevin Smith isn't necessarily leading the team in the stat categories, even if Cam Hasty goes out there and scores 20, or Gavin Perkins does or something, Todd will always say that Jevin Smith is the one who makes that team go. He's the team's he's the heart and soul of that team. He's said that on numerous occasions. So he might not score 25 points like Campbell might or Tiandre King might, but he definitely plays that size of role with that team.
And he scored 12 tonight, including, I think, 8 in the third quarter when they kind of really took control of this game.
I don't want to lose sight of, we're talking about the 3 teams there, NYA, Waynfleet, Winthrop. I don't want to lose sight of Mount Abram came up short tonight, but for a team that hadn't been to the regional quarterfinals since 1999, they were a really, really tough out for Boothbay this afternoon.
I think they beat Boothbay in the regular season, so that was a tough 3-6 draw for Boothbay.
No, they lost but it was only by 3 points.
Okay,
and the players afterwards, and the Boothbay players were afterwards saying, we knew this was going to be a fight because it was the first time and it was going to be the same thing. Yeah, they deserve all the credit in the world for how they handled this stage, being on it for the first time in over 20 years. The one thing that they just couldn't overcome was they just couldn't hit shots. And Nate Luce, who was their leading scorer pretty much all year, scored 4 points tonight. He just couldn't get anything to fall, and that happens sometimes.
Yeah, it was heart-wrenching to watch Luce struggle. And I know when we talked to Hunter Crocker from Boothbay afterwards, he said, that Luce had scored 24 points against them the first time they played. Yeah. And that at one point, Luce had even turned to Crocker on the floor and said, I just can't hit anything. Yep. And Crocker said, well, I hope it kind of keeps going that way for you because Boothbay was really nervous, especially in the second half, that Luce was going to find his scoring touch and it was going to spell disaster for Boothbay because they just couldn't seem to put Mount Abram away.
It seems like a lot of kids who haven't had a chance to play in this building where the baskets are away from the wall and they're kind of just sitting in space really struggle to find that touch. And unfortunately for Nate Luce, they don't get another game to try to get it this year. I have no doubt that Mount Abram will be a contender to get back here next year. I don't think they're going to have another 21-year wait to get back to the regionals.
And they're led by a good coach and a coach who really looks like he has that program headed on the right track. And he was saying that he gives his team a lot of credit for how they came out and fought today. But if you just can't knock a shot down from the field, especially if you're a team looking to kind of catch lightning in a bottle for the upset, it just makes it a far more uphill battle.
Not going to make the same mistake I made Saturday night. So I will remind you, centralmaine.com/highschoolsports is where all of our coverage is. Game stories, feature stories, columns, videos. You certainly want to check it out. We've got the whole tournament covered for you. Earlier today, we had some Class D South who kind of wrapped up their quarterfinals, which is done in, it's split in half, right? Half of it was Saturday and half of it's today. On the boys' side, number 2 Greenville, 52-37 winner over number 6 Pine Tree Academy. And number 2 Rangeley, 53-46 over number 7 Vinyl Haven. D-South girls, top-seeded Greenville just rolled over number 8 North Haven, 59-14. And in a game I personally had the opportunity to cover. Number 4 Seacoast Christian, 46. Temple Academy, 26. I would like to make one observation there. There were only 2 seniors playing in that game, one for each team, and there were only 5 players combined on both rosters that were a sophomore, junior, or senior. So the future is bright. Yeah, the future is bright? Question mark.
It's that South girls bracket is shaping up to be pretty interesting because you have Greenville, which is looking very much like a 1 seed, and Rangeley, which was, I think a lot of people had them pegged as the favorite coming into this year. So if it looks like if it's headed for a 1-2, we could have a pretty good, pretty close final when that comes around.
Yeah, only 3 of the teams in that bracket were over 500 on the season. That's 2 of them, Rangeley and Greenville, both 16-2 in the regular season. So
collision course, we would say.
And Rangeley boys playing a close game against Vinyl Haven. I wonder how much of a surprise that was because, I don't think people put Rangeley on Forest Hills' level. A team that's had a really good season and done well against that competition all year. So, we were talking throughout the days about all these teams that come in and kind of struggle a little bit in their first return to tourney action. Wonder if that was the case with Rangeley, and wonder how they'll look in their semifinal. It
was an interesting game in that I never felt like Rangeley was threatened, but Vinyl Haven never really wanted to disappear either.
Right.
They kind of just stuck around. It felt like Rangeley would build the lead up. They'd add 4 points here, add a few more points there, and every time it just seemed Vinyl Haven would find a way to make a hoop and kind of break the momentum and stick around long enough. But I think that 7-point final score is a little bit deceiving. I mean, it was a scrappy kind of game, but I still felt like at the end, I don't think Rangeley was ever seriously in doubt. Let's look ahead tomorrow. A light day, just 4 games here at the Augusta Civic Center, weather permitting. We've got Class D South girls. For me, I think we're headed towards a Winthrop Boothbay showdown in the final. somebody try to talk me out of that.
I think North Yarmouth Academy is a real championship caliber team. They play that tough Southern schedule. They play teams like Old Orchard Beach down there, which is also in the tournament. So they're going to be a tough. They're very, very balanced. They won their first game against Halldale, and they had 4 players in double figures. So this is not going to be, the boys team. Meanwhile, had 4 scorers all together. 4 people had a point tonight. That's not going to be. It's going to be a little more widespread on the girls' side. So, and they were such a formidable team last year. They lost to Booth Bay in the regional final last year, but obviously Booth Bay doesn't have his top player from last year. So I think it's more than 2 teams, but Winthrop and Booth Bay are definitely teams that have their eyes on the prize.
And Booth Bay won both regular season meetings against Winthrop this year. Those are Winthrop's only 2 losses.
It could be
defending state champs.
It could be tempting to think, if they won both games during the regular season, they got to be the favorite this time. But how many times do we hear the saying, how tough it is to beat a team 3 times?
Exactly.
Yet some teams have found a way to do it here this week. Just saying. It's okay. So let's put a wrap on tonight. Anything that we didn't touch on from any of the 4 Class C South boys quarterfinals that you want to make sure you mention before we catch up on some much needed sleep?
I think that North Yarmouth game with Richmond. We talked about DeAndre King on the offensive end, but that team did a really good job of limiting Richmond's top players, Caleb Densmore and Kenny Bing. Kenny Bing scored 8 points. He scored 23 points in the first time they met. Caleb Densmore scored, I think it was 10 points tonight. He scored 19 in their first matchup, so they sealed off the paint, made it tough for them to get baskets. Wonder what their approach is going to be against Winthrop, because they're going to have their hands more. They're going to have their hands full. Winthrop has a lot more scoring options than Richmond does, so it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, Winthrop's balance will probably be the difference in that game. I think off the top of my head, first impressions that. You had 2 guys in Ryan Baird and Gavin Perkins with 14 tonight, and Jevin Smith with 12, and other guys can certainly score as well for that team.
Do we have any sense that Booth Bay has a shot to shock the world and beat Wayne Fleet?
Yeah, because they were making it sound like they didn't put their best foot forward today. They did at the start, but not necessarily towards the end when Mount Abram started getting the transition game going against them, and they were missing foul shots. They were turning the ball over. Hunter Crocker sounded as thrilled as he was that they won that game. He sounded like he was pretty disgusted with how they played at the start of the 4th.
Yeah,
right. So Wayne Fleet is clearly yes, they're going to be the favorite in that game, but I do give Booth Bay a shot because they've played these teams. I mean, we'd absolutely give Winthrop a shot against Wayne Fleet, right? And Booth Bay beat Winthrop, so
fair enough. I think that's
transitive property.
There you go. I think that's going to do it for us tonight here at the Civic Center. Again, centralmaine.com/high school sports for all your tournament coverage. We'll be back here tomorrow, day 4. I believe it's a Tuesday tomorrow. Could be wrong. And we will have Class C South girls quarterfinals. But that's it for Monday night here. For Drew and Travis, I'm Travis. Thanks for listening to the Center Court Podcast. We'll catch up with you tomorrow night.